The unlucky lad was possessed by a goat demon.
병자요?
His companions suffered even more, were chased and killed by the lad. He quickly took out the talisman. His grandfather bought to exorcise the demon. The lad possessed by the demon leaped onto his companion, biting his head with a single bite. The girl beside tried to stop them but was not decide. As the man with long hair witnessed this scene, he grabbed the lad, while the others quickly opened the trapdoor, and the man with long hair forcefully threw the lad inside. The sound of landing echoed up the stairs. At this moment, laughter echoed from underground. A pair of hands reached out from the floor, directly pulling the companion underground. The hilarious horror film Handsome Guys officially premiered in 2024. Enough chit-chat, let's get straight to the point. The self-proclaimed handsome duo, Zai Bai and Shang Jiao, who are planning to move to the countryside permanently. The two of them stopped in front of a supermarket, preparing to buy some things for their new home. However, they encountered a group of young people at the supermarket. Two girls saw in Zai Bai's shopping cart an array of strange tools, which made them a little scared. So, they hurried to regroup with the boys. At that moment, Maina spotted a little dog up ahead. She went over to play with it. Unexpectedly, the dog turned out to be Shang Jiao's pet, startling Maina once again. Golf star Chang Bin hurried over to help, while Zai Bai approached angrily. Chang Bin immediately backed off. Maina feared things might escalate. She quickly pulled everyone away. On the way back, the group continued their discussion. Those two might be murderers, as why else would there be a cart full of murder tools? As they talked, the people in the car grew more excited, not noticing a goat suddenly appearing on the road. The driver Ah Bing didn't see it, and ended up hitting and killing the black goat. Moreover, the goat had a bell tied around its neck, indicating it was likely a domesticated one. However, the young people were only focused on taking photos, without a trace of guilt. The black goat is a symbol of the demon. Shortly after they left, the handsome duo also drove onto this winding mountain road. Shang Jiao was complaining about looking fierce, but he meant no harm, yet he almost made a young girl cry.
마, 네가 얼마나 잘생긴데 그따위 소리를 하노? 엄마 번지나 입어봐라. 영화배우? 뺨친다, 이 자식아.
As the two were complimenting each other's looks, they spotted the dead goat ahead. They got out to move the goat, but this scene caught the attention of patrolling police officers, resembling a murder and disposal scene. Chief Chui called for Nan patrol officers to get out of the car, and they even drew their guns. The Nan patrol officer cautiously approached to inspect. He found a goat inside the bag. They still had some concerns, so they checked Zai Bai and Shang Jiao's documents, secretly categorizing them as special surveillance targets. Although Zai Bai and Shang Jiao looked like criminal suspects, they were actually very kind-hearted. They purchased the European-style building in the Grove, planning to live a pastoral life together. However, the house appeared eerie, nothing like the photos the real estate agent had online.
문도 시원하게 열렸는데 이제 들어가 볼까요?
This house belonged to an American missionary, previously managed by the village church, but it was clear that the maintenance was lacking, almost to the point of being dilapidated. However, Shang Jiao was very satisfied. He believed that rural living was all about fixing and organizing, making it interesting. The two immediately completed the contract and started managing the house. Zai Bai inadvertently leaned against a pillar, causing the shoddy construction to collapse. This small accident led him to discover that there was actually a basement beneath the floor. They cautiously went down to investigate. Finding a goat-like pattern on the cement floor, Shang Jiao couldn't help but exclaim, "It seems that the missionary must have been an artist." Just then, Zai Bai noticed on the side a statue of the Virgin Mary, surprisingly holding a handgun. There were even 2 bullets loaded inside the handgun. Zai Bai bit the bullet in his mouth. He sensed that it might be a silver bullet.
귀한 것 같은데 부동산 아재한테 전주인한테 갖다 주라 하자.
Zai Bai spoke in the most sinister tone. He strictly followed the rules, was law-abiding and honest. Shang Jiao also exhibited his angelic nature. He created a grave for the tragically deceased goat, but as soon as the two left the woods, the grass near the grave began to wither. Meanwhile, the agent went to report to the nun. "I've sold the house you entrusted to me, but the buyer seems difficult to deal with." At that moment, not far from the old house, in the villa, Changbin and others were enjoying their vacation. This property was left by his grandfather. Changbin deliberately told local legends to scare Mena. He mentioned a girl who could see ghosts in the past, who would roam at night like a goat, harming humans. Therefore, the villagers caught that girl. The priest immediately performed an exorcism ritual. Surprisingly, the girl grew goat horns. The girl claimed to be the demon Baphomet. She threw off the priest's cross, accidentally killing Changbin's uncle. Finally, the priest pulled out a handgun and shot her with a silver bullet. From that day onwards, the locals referred to Baphomet as the goat demon. Changbin's grandfather specifically sought out a talisman. He asked his grandson to carry it with him at all times.
용한 무당한테서 1,000만 주고 사신 거래.
이게 1,000,000원이라고?
Mena could sense Changbin expressing his affection, and she couldn't help but be moved. However, in the living room, Changbin was gossiping with Xiao Yanjing. Among the people Paula brought, Mena was the worst, describing her as dull, and from a rural background. Changbin remarked that he was just passing time with any girl, and didn't need to be picky. Their lively conversation was interrupted by Mena behind them. She overheard their entire conversation. Mena was surprised to be betrayed by her friend Paula. She immediately called to confront her, but there was no answer after several attempts, as Paula was busy wandering around with Jason. At that moment, Mena noticed a fishing float moving by the lake. Turning her head, she saw Zai Bai and another person fishing. Startled, Mena accidentally fell into the water. Zai Bai quickly took off his coat and went in to rescue her, exerting a lot of effort to pull Mena out of the water. He immediately administered first aid, and asked Shangjiu to perform CPR. Mena suddenly woke up, finding the scene before her too horrifying. Mena, in her panic to escape, unfortunately tripped and fainted. Zai Bai and Shangjiu planned to carry her back home first, but this scene was coincidentally witnessed by Paula and Jason, who mistakenly thought Zai Bai and Shangjiu were kidnapping Mena. They hurried back to inform their companions, while Changbin was considering calling the police, only to realize his phone was still in Mena's coat pocket. His phone was filled with incriminating information. If the kidnappers sold it to the TV station, Changbin's career would be over. Other illegal activities of the group would also be exposed. Therefore, they abandoned the idea of calling the police. They decided to infiltrate the enemy camp, to steal back the phone, and then have Ah Bing go find the police. Ah Bing, who had been treated like a slave, had no choice but to obey.
병신 새끼들 폰 탓해서 개방신이나 타게라.
Just as Ah Bing was starting to feel happy for a moment, he almost collided with a goat, and quickly turned the steering wheel to avoid it. The sound of the goat's bleating came from his side. Ah Bing stiffly turned his head, and the goat lunged at him as if mad, biting onto him and not letting go. Ah Bing desperately grabbed a water bottle, and shoved it into the goat's mouth, questioning, "Are you taking me for a fool?" The next moment, the goat spat the water bottle back at his face. Ah Bing screamed and ran out of the car to escape. At the same time, Zai Bai and the others lifted Mena into the car, planning to take her to the hospital. However, the heavy rain that night had made the dirt road muddy, rendering the car unable to start. The next day, Mena woke up from her dream, realizing she was wrapped in a sleeping bag. It seemed that Zai Bai was worried she might catch a cold at night. Unfortunately, Mena was unaware of the exact situation. Thinking she had been kidnapped by bad people, she quickly put on clothes and prepared to escape. Of course, she didn't forget to bring her 2 phones. Mena quietly approached the living room, where she saw Shangjiu wearing a mask, and holding a spray gun, working on something at the stove. She lowered her footsteps, and picked up a pry bar from the floor, but she was still noticed by Shangjiu. Mena rushed towards the door, but she was intercepted by Zai Bai. She raised the pry bar and swung it, only to miss her target and hit the door frame. Mena, feeling defeated, hugged a pillar and cried out. Finally, the misunderstanding was cleared up. Shangjiu, holding the spray gun, was actually planning to cook fish for Mena. In reality, after spending just a few minutes together, she realized that these 2 brothers were genuine people. At the same time, Changbin and the others arrived outside the room, sending Xiao Yanjing to investigate. He saw Mena struggling through the window, but she was simply eager to do the dishes. Shangjiu even had a special background music, and a unique dance for dishwashing. Mena was very happy.
말로만 듣던 스톡홀름 신드롬.
When suddenly, Zai Bai, who was cutting wood outside, accidentally hit a beehive with the saw. He frantically swung the axe while fleeing. This scene terrified Xiao Yinjing to the core. Chang Bin and the others saw that. Zai Bai chasing Xiao Yinjing with the axe. They ran away immediately. Paula didn't expect Jason to leave her behind and run away. She kicked a tree. Unpredictably, a broken branch fell down, stabbing her through the heart. When Chang Bin and the others returned, they only saw Paula's body. They speculated that this was the work of a serial killer who liked to display bodies in a horrifying manner. At this moment, Zai Bai, who was labeled as a murderer, finally ran back to the cabin in the woods. His face swollen from bee stings like a pig's head. He even spat out a small bee from his mouth. As Zai Bai applied a cold compress, he told Mena, "I just met your friends." But everyone was probably frightened by the bees, and they all ran off without saying a word. Mena now didn't want to go back and face them. She planned to wait at Zai Bai's house for Paula to come and apologize. Shangjiu was very happy to make a female friend, leaving Zai Bai alone in a corner feeling jealous. This is a movie about 3 people, yet he still never had a name.
사랑하는 기계! 완전 답이 없노!
Frustrated Zai Bai could only vent his anger on wood. Xiao Yinjing and the other 2 felt scared seeing him go crazy. He couldn't understand why Mena was associating with a murderer.
미나 지금 울면서 자기가 만들고 있는 거야? 왜요?
아, 눈에 뭐가 들어간 것 같아서요.
Little did they know it wasn't a coffin at all, but a flower bed that Shanjiu used for planting vegetables. Changbin instructed Jason to deal with Zai Bai, while he and Xiao Yinjing handled Shangjiu. However, these rich second-generation individuals couldn't handle anything properly, as Jason accidentally stabbed his own foot with a flying knife. Changbin was spotted by Mena. Before he could get close, Shangjiu accidentally touched a wire while getting up to greet, electrocuting the puddle in front of him. Unlucky Changbin stepped into it, causing smoke to rise from his head due to the shock. Xiao Yinjing shouted, wanting to avenge his companions. He tripped over a wire and fell into the wooden flower bed, with several large nails just a few millimeters away from his head. At that moment, a golf club suspended in midair fell down, successfully sending Xiao Yinjing off to the western paradise. At the same time, Jason finally managed to pull out the knife. He gritted his teeth as he charged towards Zai Bai, only to unexpectedly plunge his head into a meat grinder, resulting in his entire body being shredded. Zai Bai hurriedly shouted to find Shangjiu, but upon reaching there, he saw 2 more bodies lying down, with Mena beside them fainting from shock instantly. In a short period, 4 people lost their lives, as the evil spirit sealed in the basement gradually awakened, casting a shroud of darkness over the entire house. On the other side, Ah Bing, who escaped from Sheep's Mouth, reporting that his friends had been kidnapped by 2 men. Director Cui, upon hearing the kidnapper's description, immediately thought of those 2 intimidating out-of-towners. He swiftly ordered the Nan Patrol police to mobilize. At the same time, Mena was still unconscious. Shangjiu suggested calling the police first. After all, 3 people suddenly ran over to commit suicide. But Zai Bai disagreed with this approach. The police definitely wouldn't believe that people lined up to commit suicide and ran over to someone else's house to do so. Zai Bai speculated that Mena and her friends were very likely involved in cult activities. Wouldn't fanatics offer themselves as sacrifices? Zai Bai's analysis was very reasonable. Even Sherlock Holmes would have admired it. Just then, Changbin unexpectedly woke up. As it turned out, he wasn't electrocuted to death. At this moment, Director Cui arrived in a police car, but he failed to notice the road spikes, resulting in the car's fuel tank being punctured. Director Cui had just gotten out of the car when he saw Xiao Yinjing, as well as the bodies in the meat grinder. Soon after, Chang Bin, who had regained consciousness, appeared, warning the police that the murderer might have set a trap, so they needed to be extremely cautious in their actions. Director Cui instructed the patrolling police to take the people back to the car first. While he went into the house to inspect, he heard Zai Bai and Shangjiu communicating in the room, so he kicked the door open. Director Cui intended to make a grand entrance, but unexpectedly, his foot got stuck in the doorframe. Fortunately, Zai Bai and Shangjiu surrendered helplessly. Director Cui ordered the 2 to put their hands behind their backs and lie down on the ground, but he didn't expect to knock down the unstable pillar with his rear end, and the broken plank, along with nails, struck Director Cui's head as he struggled to stand up to maintain his authority, only to be scalded by a hot water kettle. Injured Director Cui walked out of the house, but after a few steps, he collapsed and couldn't get up. The gun in his hand accidentally fired, igniting the car's fuel tank. causing the patrolling police officer to catch fire quickly. Shang-Jio tried to help but ended up in chaos, a series of events that made the situation worse. Changbin picked up the gun from the ground and aimed at the culprit, while Zai Bai and Shang-Jio hurried into the room to hide, leaving their pet dog in Changbin's hands to rescue their beloved dog. Shang-Jio put on a protective mask and fought with Changbin using a nail gun, while Zai Bai took the opportunity to sneak around and snatch the dog from them. At a critical moment, Changbin ran out of bullets, so he grabbed a pool cue to chase after Zai Bai. On the other side, the nun from before was watching a horror movie in the hospital room, while the old man on the bed dreamed of many years ago, when a priest handed him a thick book, urging him to prevent the return of evil spirits. But unfortunately, the old man was not good at English back then, and had no idea what the priest had said. In the next moment, he woke up abruptly from unconsciousness. He immediately picked up the book by his bedside and flipped through it, which stated that 66 years and 6 months later, 5 evildoers would sacrifice a goat to open the gates of hell, becoming sacrifices themselves, aided by ignorant individuals who couldn't distinguish between good and evil, until Baphomet awakens to set the world on fire. At this moment, Changbin tied Zai Bai to a tree and started beating him, but fortunately, Shang-Jio and Mena arrived just in time to intervene. Mena explained that everything was truly just an accident, and that the two uncles were just ordinary kind-hearted people. Unexpectedly, Changbin directly pulled out her jacket's phone. He said, "They came for this phone. Does anyone care about your life or death?" Changbin was feeling fortunate, but was suddenly knocked down by Abing from behind. He snatched the phone to prepare for resistance, and Abing excitedly ran out of the forest. But shortly after, he ran back, followed by Paula, who had a large hole pierced through her. Looking nothing like a human no matter how you looked at her, Paula charged on all fours like a goat. She chased Abing into the depths of the forest. Changbin immediately recalled that the legend his grandfather had told him, that Paula must be possessed by a goat demon. He hastily got up and ran in the opposite direction. Changbin barged into Zai Bai's house to find the car keys, rummaging around until he found the silver bullet handgun. Shortly after, Shang-Jio returned with Zai Bai on his back. Changbin immediately emerged with the gun, threatening them to hand over the car keys. Mena wanted to step forward to intervene, but Zai Bai just wanted Changbin to take the keys and leave quickly. Surprisingly, Bing was blocking the doorway.
병서요?
성민이는?
Abing, possessed by the goat demon, suddenly leaped in through the window. He picked up the handgun from the floor and threw it out the window. Changbin quickly searched his pockets and pulled out the talisman his grandfather had bought for him. Bing jumped onto Changbin and bit his head. Mena tried to intervene but was pushed aside. Shang-Jio grabbed hold of Bing, while Zai Bai hurriedly opened the basement nearby, instructing Shang-Jio to throw Bing inside. The dark staircase echoed with the sound of something hitting the ground. At this moment, a chilling laughter emanated from underground. A pair of hands reached out from the floor, dragging Changbin directly underground. Mena and the other two hurried over to check. As Bing and Changbin's blood seeped into the basement groove, the strange goat pattern emitted a red light. A dark energy rushed into Changbin's body. The three were about to flee, but they ran into the old man John head-on. Without waiting for them to explain the situation, Changbin, with goat horns sprouting from his head, emerged from the ceiling beams. John immediately took out a cross to exorcise, but Changbin suddenly leaped towards the ground, knocking over a nearby white plastic bucket, causing an unknown liquid to spill onto the ground. John chased after Changbin while reciting prayers, trying to repress the Baphomet within him. Zaibi quickly lit the liquid on the ground with a lighter. On the other side, the Nan patrol officer, who almost got burned to death, regained consciousness. He took off Chief Chui's pants to put on. He noticed the house next to him was on fire, so he hastily grabbed his pants and ran away. Shang-Jio and the other two also fled the fire with John, only to find Changbin chasing after them. Previously deceased Chief Chui and Xiao Yinjing also woke up, but now they were all puppets of Baphomet. Zaibi picked up a hammer to hold back the enemies, allowing Shang-Jio to lead the others in escaping. He was about to give an emotional speech, but when he turned around, he realized Shang-Jio had already run far ahead. The next moment, Chief Chui and Xiao Yinjing both lunged at Zaibi. Shang-Jio still decided to go back and help. He insisted that Mena must survive. He jumped onto the car to grab a chainsaw, and as Chief Chui was about to run towards him, Shanjiu finally started the chainsaw and split him open. Immediately after, he rushed to Zaibi's side and chopped off Xiao Yinjing's head. The two exchanged a smile and held their weapons, facing Chang Bin together, and swung him into the house with a hammer. But before Zaibai could even feel relieved for 2 seconds, Chang Bin quickly turned around and charged towards them again. At the same time, John regained consciousness and told Mena that they must find the priest's gun, as the silver bullet inside the gun could defeat Baphomet. Upon hearing this, Mena realized that the gun was just outside the window, so she sneaked near the back window to get the gun, but the handgun was already broken, and the silver bullet was missing. Just then, the dog started howling, and when Mena approached, she saw the silver bullet beside the dog. As Chang Bin was about to attack Zaibi and his brother, Mena suddenly shouted. She loaded the silver bullet into the nail gun. Baphomet immediately retracted his goat horns, and with Chang Bin's face, he begged pathetically for mercy. But Mena was not deceived. The issue was that the nail gun wasn't connected to power, and seeing this, Baphomet grabbed Mena. In the nick of time, Shanjiu reconnected the power source. Mena kicked Baphomet away and shot him right between the eyes. The silver bullet instantly pierced through the demon, causing Baphomet to vanish into the night sky. The story finally came to a perfect close. Zaibai and the others started a peaceful life in the countryside. The movie ends here. The Korean versions of Tuckerdale vs. Evil and the Evil Dead completely reproduced classic scenes, but with reduced blood and gore, making it enjoyable for those who haven't seen the original. The localization was well done. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.